Hello everyone, it's your crying fairy godmother Mint, and welcome back to the Mint Coven. Today is a very exciting video indeed. Today we're talking about the Faery Sight, or the ability to see fairies. First, I'm going to preface this with my own thoughts, and those thoughts are, fairies don't want you to see them. Okay? There are loads and loads and loads of videos on YouTube about the Faery Sight, being able to see fairies, how to see fairies, and things like that. And of course, I will talk to you about the classic ways that you can see fairies. I'll even put recipes in this video as well, so that you can see historically and, you know, folklorically, is that a word, how people do see fairies. I'll talk about how I see them, and I'll talk about my thoughts and opinions and things of that nature. When it comes to my opinions, you don't have to agree with me, you don't have to believe me, nothing. You don't have to anything. Your mind is your own. You can make your own decisions about how you feel about what I'm saying and how you feel about the other things that people have researched and come to learn. Don't say, oh, Mintfaery said blah, 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 so this is how it is. No, everyone's experience is personal. My experience is personal, even though it may be similar to yours or other people's. My experience may be completely different than someone else's. That does not mean that their experience is incorrect or that my experience is incorrect. It means that we are just completely different people with completely different lives, just like with anything else. Like I was saying, fairies don't want you to see them, in my opinion. It's based on my research reading about the types of encounters that people have with the fae, the types of encounters that people have with different types of fae, and the way they present themselves or don't present themselves to you. There is a reason why the different realms that exist in the world are not all visible at the same time. There is a reason why some people can see things a little differently than other people, and that is because people are destructive. People are violent, people are curious, and they like to poke and prod and figure everything out and make things make sense to them. They like to use things to their advantage. They like to use things to control other people. You know, oh, you're stuck? Uh-oh, uh-oh, buddy, uh-oh, uh-oh, my sweet babies. Oh my god, this is very distracting. Oh, cute babies. Anyway, think about how people are when, you know, they discover something new, or even think about how people are when they excavate tombs and mummies, sarcophagi. Is that the plural of sarcophagus? I don't know. But we literally dig up ritually buried and sacred remains for science. And even though I love the progress that we have as a people by exploring these things, they are indeed sacred and they are buried for a reason. Imagine someone digging up your family's body just to like check it out. You know, it is for the progress and for the education of the people. However, it is also very invasive. So think about being an otherworldly being. Think about what you wouldn't want to happen to you. You wouldn't want to get caught by a human. You wouldn't want a human to see you. You wouldn't want a human to catch you. You wouldn't want a human anywhere near you, because they will definitely put you in a cage, a box, a bottle, a bag, whatever, and dissect you, interrogate you, torture you, whatever they can do to figure out more about who you are, about your species, and about how you function. Also think about how humans conquer each other, murder each other, take over each other's lands, and enslave each other. Is that something that you would want to be a part of, or that you would want to happen to you or your entire race of people? Absolutely not. So I am just like, I totally understand and agree with the hidden folk that they would like to stay hidden. Absolutely. However, if the fae feel like you can help them, you can benefit them in some way, and I'm talking about different types of fae right now, I'm talking about the fae in general. You know, there are fae that are interested in humans and think that humans are funny and like to think of humans as sort of like pets, you know, or lower life forms. And there are some of the fae that despise us completely and will trick humans or play with humans, you know, just mess with humans, and, you know, for good reason. And that is because they are on a completely different moral plane than we are. They are not good or bad, right or wrong. They are just completely different. They are infinite beings with infinite wisdom about how everything works, and we are not like that. We are singular beings who think that we are smarter and stronger and more powerful than any other life form. So there is a huge divide when it comes to the fae and when it comes to human beings, but like I said, if they feel like you can help them, or if they feel like you are beneficial to them or to the earth or to a path that needs to be set into motion, they may allow you to see them. There are, of course, people that have a natural ability to see them. These people are often called crazy. It's true. Or they are people who are born with the Faery Sight. This is sort of another sense that allows you to see things as they truly are without the mask or the veil of our human grid. And what I mean by our human grid is the fact that we are so very capable of making things seem normal and mundane for us so that we can continue with everyday life, you know, paying our bills, feeding our children, doing whatever we have to do. Otherwise, if we did not have this human grid, this veil over our eyes, we would be constantly freaking out about life and death and spirituality and space, time, gravity, you know, physics. We'd be like losing our minds all the time, wondering and discovering and freaking out about everything that can be possible, that could be possible, that is possible, that's happening right now. So we have this wonderful human veil over our eyes that allows us to live our lives in a more calm and functional fashion. And there are some people who have a bit of a thinner veil over their eyes, and they are able to see things that other people cannot. There is a really fine line between mental illness and having the ability to see or perceive, feel, smell, taste, or sense things that are not readily available for other people to see, smell, taste, feel, whatever, because of the fact that there are mental illnesses that cause you to hallucinate, that cause you to see and hear things that aren't really there. It is sometimes difficult for people to see the difference between having a mental illness and having an extra sense. And that is something that is difficult to talk about. There's so many details, so many intricacies. It's just too much. And I'd love to talk about this further in another video. However, right now we're just focusing on Faery Sight. I will say that one of the ways to distinguish whether you are seeing something that is from another realm or just having a hallucination is paying attention to your own mental health, what you've been eating, drinking, smoking, taking, whatever, how your sleep state has been. You know, there are a lot of different things to think about when you are seeing something that is not like physically there. You know what I mean? Another thing that I think is important to say is that the Fae and many other spiritual creatures will appear to you in a glamour. People talk about seeing fairies and pixies and they see small people with wings, or they see, you know, a small person walking around with like a cap and, you know, they've got a beard and they look like just a tiny human. That can be a fairy glamour. To see a spiritual being in its true form is basically impossible. We do not have the equipment to see spirit the way the spirit is, the way that it actually is. We have the ability to see things in a human way. We have an ability to perceive things that look like something that we can understand. A fairy glamour will be put on by one of the Fae so that you can perceive them in a way that your brain will understand. Does that make sense? So if you're seeing like a beautiful woman with flowing hair that's moving and she's got these gorgeous wings and, you know, this adorable little nose and all of these kind of human features, even if they are exaggerated or extended in a way that makes her seem a little bit less than human, that's still them putting on a fairy glamour so that you can see them in a way that your brain will understand. Otherwise, you'd be looking at a tiny exploding cube of light that's, you know, like shooting out things and you know, whatever an actual spiritual light being looks like. We can't really see that with our limited vision. So they will put on or show you what they would look like if they were a creature of this realm, which is very interesting. I think it's something that's super awesome to think about, because they get to kind of choose how they will appear to you based on what they think is beautiful about our world or what they think is interesting about our world. Okay, the lighting is going to change in this video 11,000 times. I'm so sorry. Let's get a little bit into how you actually see fairies, or see what they allow you to see. Let's put it that way. If you are someone who was born with the sight, then you may already be able to see certain things out of the corner of your eye, certain things before you wake up when you have that in-between state where you're just opening your eyes but you still feel kind of hazy, and you can see maybe some little blips here and there, some little sparks, some flashes of light, some balls of light even. Those things are definitely conducive to having the fairy sight. As you can see, small changes or shifts in the light when nothing is passing over the light source, those are also conducive to having a fairy sight. There are so many different ways that our brains try to rationalize these kinds of sights that we overlook them very often. We just pass over them and we say, oh, that's just the car going by and the light flashing. Or that's just a piece of glitter in my eye or something. Well, we always try to rationalize any kind of supernatural activity unless we're like actively seeking it. But there are those of us who see those things, those little changes in the atmosphere, and can feel the presence of something else near them, and maybe get a little bit of that little corner of the eye movement action there, and you say, huh, that is definitely something otherworldly. That is definitely a little ripple in the matrix where I'm able to see something that is beside me, but not in this realm. If you're someone that has a very powerful fairy sight, you will be able to see the fae with their glamour. You'll be able to see perhaps a figure or a form. You'll be able to see, I'm having a flashback of something I saw the other day. You'll be able to see a shadow, or you'll be able to see or even hear footsteps scuffling across the floor, even above you. A lot of times you'll see disembodied heads, which is something that I see a lot, which is a little scary. You'll be able to see perhaps eyes in the distance, or eyes in something, you know, looking at you. Look to the left and you see those eyeballs. You know, like try to clear your head, you look again and they're completely gone. Oftentimes you'll see something like this, you know, a little blip or a little sparkle, and the second time you look, you go to look back and it's completely gone. That is something that either didn't mean for you to see it, or was not at all sure that you saw it or that you could see it, and then they are disguising themselves once again as the leaf, or, you know, the pen that you thought was there. One of the best times to be able to see the fae is in in-between times. They are often seen in in-between realms. Their realm is directly like next to ours, on top of ours, and just shielded by a very thin veil or a very thin sheer curtain that our human minds and eyes cannot see through. There are times of day, and times even just for us in general, where the veil is transparent. It's just not there. And one of those times, of course, is when you are dreaming, or when you are in a state where you're just waking up or just falling asleep. There are also those times where you are looking at something out of the corner of your eye, or you see something in your peripheral vision because you're not looking directly at it. Your mind doesn't have the time to turn it into something normal. Your mind doesn't have that time to say, oh, it's just, you know, a stapler, and fill in the spaces where it should look like a stapler. You are not focusing on that thing, so your mind doesn't have the thought to rationalize it into something normal. So it's something that can exist as it would exist in its own space beside you without you looking directly at it. You turn to look directly at it, and then it has that time to turn into whatever it wants you to think it is. But looking out of the corner of your eye at things can often help you to see something from the fairy realm. Hag Zones are another really wonderful way to see between realms. Any kind of a stone that has a natural hole in it. Have to go. Any stone that has a natural hole in it, you look through, peer through that hole. I do have a hag stone, and I'm not sure if it's where I think it is. Let me see, hold on. Yes, here it is. It's a tiny one, it's really cute. But as you can see, this stone has a natural hole in it. So I can see through it. Maybe that was my eyeball. By looking through a hag stone, you can see different dimensions and different realms that are right beside you or right on top of you with the aid of this stone. It's kind of like the idea of looking through, you know, something with a tiny hole, looking through like a pinhole pipe or whatever they call it, pinhole pipe. You know, when you're looking at an eclipse and you look through the eclipse pinhole pipe thing so that you can actually look at the eclipse. That's sort of how the hag stone works, and see things as they truly are. One of the most common ways that I see the fae is through middle of the night wake ups. I'm an incredibly light sleeper, which is something that contributes to how well I am able to lucid dream. But when I wake up, I often wake up at 3 a.m. very often, almost every night, I wake up at 3 a.m. just eyes open, and at that time it's almost exactly the same as when I was a child, and I would wake up from a night terror and the room would just be filled with the creatures of the many dimensions. I'm gonna put it that way. A little freaked out. I mean, honestly, if you wake up and you see things in your room, you're gonna freak out because it could be a burglar. But, you know, it's not something that I immediately feel the need to react to. I don't, like, you know, go and grab a cross and start, you know, singing and freaking out. I don't have any of that kind of emotions. Because I've learned over the years just to chill out. I always look out to see how long these visions last and what is happening in them, whether I'm like receiving messages, if people are talking to me, like what is going on, what my mental state is, because I am always very aware of the fact that mental illness and spiritual visions are so very easily entangled. So I'm always like just making sure I'm okay. You know what I mean? It's just a fact. This is something that you got to do when you're someone who, you know, has that kind of ability, is you want to make sure that you're mentally sound while you're having this kind of interesting experience. No longer night. It's not quite daytime yet. The sun may be just edging toward the horizon, and that is the most perfect time to look around and see what types of little things you can catch in the corners of your eyes. And the more that you believe that you have the ability to see these things, the better your chances will be. If you are living in doubt and you're just completely in doubt and like, I'm not going to see anything, but I guess I'll just look. Just believe, just like with any type of magic or anything that you're working toward in life in general, believe that you have the capability to do it. Believe that you can achieve this. Believe that you do have the ability to see this. Try, you know, continue to try. Don't try so hard and put so much into it that you're obsessing over it, because that is, because that obsessive type of energy is not very inviting. Like I said before, the Fae don't want you to see them. You know, they don't want to be perceived. They're just like, you know, no thank you. Be careful, be respectful, know what you're getting into, watch as many videos on the subject as possible, be very aware of what you might see, be very aware of the fact that what you might see might not be beautiful or pretty or like cute. It might be scary looking, and it might just look very different than what you're used to, and just go along with that. Like I said before, I've said loads of times, my first encounter with the Fae was scary. I was terrified. You know, I was really scared because it wasn't something that I had seen before, and because it was just, it looked creepy. It wasn't a fuzzy, cute, round, pudgy thing. It was angular, you know, and scary and bony. There are beautiful Fae, of course. There are ways that they choose to look that are just enchanting and that draw you in, but there are also ways that they look that may be very terrifying to you, but are not actually scary to them at all. It's just a very interesting way that they've decided to present themselves. So just be aware and ready for all of those possibilities if this is something that you decide you want to do. Now, there are loads of recipes for tonics or teas that give you the Faery Sight, if it's not something that you are already born with, and I will link all of those recipes below just in case you want to check out all of them. Of course, disclaimer, don't eat or drink or rub anything on yourself that if you do not know what it is, if you don't know if you're allergic to it. Don't ingest anything that is foreign to you, please, without asking your doctor. The only thing that I would ever recommend to you are probably herbs, but do not drink or smoke or snort them until you know that you are okay with them. Do not do anything without consulting a doctor or your mom or someone who knows what you're allergic to, or someone who knows that they're not going to interfere with any medications that you're on or anything like that, because I want you to be safe. I personally believe that you don't need to take anything or, you know, add anything to your diet that will help you to see these things, because with enough willpower and enough practice, enough meditation, and with paying attention to the right times of day, to the right states of mind that you're in, I believe that you can do it on your own. However, I do believe that it takes a great deal of practice depending on how well you visualize, how much focus you have, how much belief you have in your heart, and how much confidence you have in the fact that you can do these things. If you would like to speed up this process or to help this process, if you have a bit of a difficulty visualizing and things like that, then I would recommend a tea blend. Now my tea blend is different than a lot of other tea blends or potion blends that people use, just because I've tried loads of different things. I've tried the classic herbs. I know what works best for me. If I want to have like a heightened awareness, I drink a tea of elderberry, mugwort, kava kava, and elf wort. Those are all things that I put together. I brew them together for about 6 minutes, and then I drink that tea. Sometimes I'll store it in the fridge, and I like to have it hot. I'm not an iced drinks person, and this tea helps a great deal, especially if you're doing like a midday sort of ritual. It's really great to put you in a very calm state, and it definitely awakens your mind. Elderberry is delicious as well, so it's not going to be nasty, which I love. Elderberry is very sacred to the Fae, and they also use it in their own mixtures and wines and potions that they make for themselves. Elderberry wine is a classic fairy wine, so it's something that I know that is sacred to them, but also that you won't offend them by drinking. It helps to enhance your mind in the dream realm. It also helps to bring in those incredible visuals and to show you a little bit of the way the world looks with the veil lifted. And the intention out that you would like to see the Fae does make you a bit of a, I don't want to say target, but it definitely shows that you are someone who is aware of them. And so then you have to show yourself as someone who respects them, respects their privacy, respects their lifestyle, and respects the fact that they may not want to have anything at all to do with you. If and when you do see them, don't scream, don't freak out, don't be like, ah, try not to do any of those things. Be discreet, recognize it, be like, okay, all right, maybe write it down in your book of shadows, share it with like-minded people, share it with me. I would love to hear about people's fairy encounters. Try to be as respectful as possible. It's incredibly important. If you're, going into someone else's country and you want to learn about their cultural ways, you're going to be as respectful as possible, right? You're not going to freak out at something that you see because you're not used to it. You're not going to scream at someone's, traditional stylings or anything like that, because that's disrespectful. You're going to be respectful, you're going to be discreet and polite, and you're going to be calm and collected, and you're going to have a fantastic experience. So with that, have a beautiful, magical evening. Oh, and before I go, I did a really wonderful podcast. Oh my gosh, the Pocket Coven. I will link that in the description box. The Pocket Coven had me on their podcast last week talking about lucid dreaming, also talking about our very crazy shared Fae experience on their Patreon. All had very similar Fae visits the same night. So if you want to hear more about that, please check out their podcast. And in my next fairy video, I will be drawing and discussing my last fairy encounter, which was a little bit shocking. So I hope you look forward to that. And I love you all. Have a lovely evening.